Welcome to the DRF College Sports Podcast, brought to you by DRF Sports. Daily Racing Form, America's most trusted name in horse racing, is now providing sports bettors with exclusive data analytics, previews, videos, and expert picks on all major sports. Bet smarter and have more fun doing it. It's the DRF College Sports Podcast, and now your hosts, Jack Fitzpatrick and Bennett Conlin. Ready, set, bet.
Welcome into the DRF College Sports Podcast. We're back. We've hit the round of 64, the round of 32, the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. The Final Four of the NIT is here. St. Bonaventure, Xavier, Washington State, Texas A&M. You can feel the palpitation is real.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge week for everyone who follows that, and I think that's the story of the week nationally, right? There was a day or two where people were all excited about Will Smith and Chris Rock, and then they remembered that the NIT Final Four was going on, and everything shifted pretty rapidly toward the Bonnies, and if they could get it done. Doesn't NIT championship salvage what was otherwise a disappointing year?
Yeah, I mean, the St. Bonaventure Bonnies, they've outright won as an underdog in each round. Colorado, then they went on to Norman, Oklahoma, took down the Sooners as an underdog, and they went to Charlottesville, Virginia. People aren't talking this enough. JPJ is a hard place to play against Tony Bennett and company. And not only did they win, they won with an emphatic block at the – we know way too much about this NIT run, don't we?
The Bonnies have really captivated a nation, and that Virginia game is one that'll – I think people will remember that for a long time. The block shot late, the great finish, and this is a vintage Virginia squad that only has, as of now, I believe only 3 of their players have already entered the portal. So it's a team that's, they're well-rounded. They had a lot of depth, and they played walk-ons this year, which means that they're good.
If you asked UVA fans, that's exactly what it means.
There were actually a lot of takes like that. We don't have to get into it, obviously, but there are a lot of UVA fans when the walk-ons were transferring to maybe go to a mid-major, and they're like, "This is what we do. We develop players." It's like, all right. I mean, you lost in the NIT though, so
you didn't even make it to the semis. You lost in the quarters at home.
Yeah, they have some hot takes. Those fans, that's for sure.
You know who else has hot takes?
You.
Yeah, I think St. Mary's still has an outside shot at winning the national championship.
Should we talk about our Final Four?
Yes, we should talk about our Final Four.
Who do you have in your Final Four?
I have Villanova, Kansas, and then the other side of the bracket was a little hard. I was thinking Gonzaga, but I ended up going UNC Duke.
Yeah, see, that's really smart, and I just felt with the 8 seed, they struck me as a team that when I looked through the bracket, I assume they'll probably play Baylor in that second round, and that's kind of the game that just looking at film and studying stats, I could see them going up about 25 or so, blowing it, but then rallying in OT would be my guess for the game. Hard to get a feel, but that's my expectation.
So we'll start talking Final Four here. We'll start with the late game, UNC Duke, just because it feels like there's more storylines. UNC, as Bennett mentioned, an 8 seed that has taken down Baylor after blowing a huge lead. You thought maybe that would be bad for them. They were coming off of an absolute beat down, a street-style just destruction of Marquette, and then they beat UCLA pretty handedly, and then they beat St. Peter's in a game that, you either blow out St. Peter's or you lose to St. Peter's is what it kind of seemed like in the NCAA tournament. But UNC's now won 10 of their last 11. If you go back, they've won 12 of their last 15, I believe. They've covered their last 4. They've covered 10 of their last 11. A team that's really been on a hot streak since Hubert Davis kind of figured out what their rotation was. And Brady Manick has averaged over 20 points in the NCAA tournament. Pair that with Caleb Love, who is either the hottest shooter in the nation or the coldest shooter in the nation. He's just so happened to have been the hottest shooter these last couple of games. And pair that with the rebounding machine, Armando Bacot. This UNC team's legit, and they're taking on a Duke team that has, I think, 5 guys averaging double figures or 4 guys averaging double figures, and they have a 9th, the 5th averaging about 9. It's Coach K's farewell tour. Coach K's first ever national championship came against Kansas, and now he has a potential to finish his career with a national championship against Kansas.
Yeah, it's a lot of storybook things for Coach K. And you'll hear a lot this week, right? First NCAA tournament matchup ever between Carolina and Duke, which is crazy. It's, they both had a lot of tournament success and been great programs. To never meet is kind of crazy. But it's also, I mean, it's going to be a historic game. And as much as like some fans probably roll their eyes at the Coach K narratives or the Duke UNC narrative, like from an unbiased viewership perspective, it's pretty cool. Like it's a pretty cool matchup. Both teams are playing well. I know there's the 8 seed, but once you get into the tournament, you can pretty much throw seeding out the window because you look at St. Peter's for those, first few rounds. They obviously weren't playing like a 15 seed. They played really well in Carolina, made them look like the St. Peter's I think we expected to see in the tournament. But great matchups. You have, 4 quote unquote blue bloods, if you want to call Villanova a new blood instead of a blue blood, whatever. But it's 4 teams. I think they all have at least 3 national titles in the Final Four. So whoever is winning the national title, cutting down the nets, they've done it before multiple times. They're proud programs. All the coaches are really, really good. Hubert Davis is obviously the new kid on the block in terms of being a first-year head coach, but it seems like he's got a promising start to his Carolina tenure. Been on the sideline with them for a few years. So I'm pretty excited for the Final Four. I'm struggling how to necessarily handicap some of these games, but I do think they're going to be great matchups.
I'm really excited for all of them. I'm hoping Villanova pulls off the upset. But we'll get into best bets and things like that later on. Duke UNC first up. That, like you said, if you're an unbiased viewer of college basketball, everything about this game is just amazing. They've met over 250 times throughout both program histories. To have never met in the NCAA tournament, even if like not in the national championship, like that's also mind-boggling to me. Like there's never been a point where they both have found their way to the national championship because they've both been like top 10 teams in the same year on multiple occasions. And it's just very fitting that the first time they meet is in the Final Four in Coach K's farewell tour, all of that crazy stuff. Who do you got, though? Let's just dive right into it. Who do you got? Duke is -4. North Carolina is +163 on Moneyline, according to DRF Sportsbook. Who do you got?
Pretty public play, but I kind of like Carolina spread. I just feel like the game's so evenly matched. I love the way Carolina's playing right now. Last time they played Duke, they won on the road by 13. Obviously, the first time they lost by 20 points at home. So I don't know how much stock I'm putting into either of those necessarily. But the way they played really since the end of January, Carolina's been a really, really solid team. They have some impressive wins. They've looked consistent. The one, I guess, outlier is that Pitt loss in mid-February. That's kind of weird.
Well, if you look at that, why? Why is UNC an 8? Why is St. Peter's a 15 seed when they've beat these? Someone tweeted that. We should do a peek behind the inside joke there. Someone tweeted seriously about how is UNC favored against St. Peter's by 8.5 when UNC had just lost to Pitt, and then everyone was like, well, St. Peter's lost to Siena more recently than they lost to
The logic there didn't make any sense given how well Carolina's played. Like, you have to take into account the full body of work, I think, to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, Carolina now is better than Carolina when they were, getting blown out by Tennessee in November.
Yeah.
So they're playing really well. Like, of course, they're favored over St. Peter's. It's a game that in hindsight, maybe you should have been on the St. Peter's side. They kind of dominated the entire game, start to finish. It was never really competitive. And they won't do that against Duke, but the Baylor win, the UCLA win, both games they've been good. I think for me, they don't go that deep, but with Manic shooting really well, you mentioned Caleb Love has had some good shooting performances. He's also had some where he isn't that good and they still win. I think he was only like 2 of 10 from 3 against St. Peter's maybe, or maybe that was a UCLA game. I forget exactly which one he struggled in. UCLA, he was awesome. He had 6 threes in that game, right? He hit those really clutch shots. So he kind of seems to alternate back and forth. I feel like he's due for a big one, but like RJ Davis gets hot. Manic's been consistent though, and the only time in this tournament North Carolina's looked bad is when he threw that elbow and got ejected against Baylor.
Yeah, and like not only did they look bad, they looked terrible. Blew a 25-point lead, and also it's insane that he had 26 points up to that point. He was feasting against a good Baylor defense, and then since then he's put up fantastic numbers. And then you didn't even get to Baycott.
Mm-hmm.
He's a rebounding machine. 22 rebounds against St. Peter's, and I think he's had over 10 rebounds in each NCAA tournament game to this point.
Yeah, he's probably the most important player, I think, in this game, I would say. Because if he gets in foul trouble and they go to like Justin McCoy or something, man, it gets pretty tough for Carolina. So in that last meeting with Duke, he was 10 for 11 from the field, had 23 points in 30 minutes, 7 rebounds, a couple blocks. Like Baycott's the guy. If they can keep him out of foul trouble, I do like Carolina. I'm going to end up taking Carolina. Part of that is a heart play where I'm not a huge Duke guy. I don't really want to see Duke win the title. So I'm rooting for Carolina in this one just from my perspective. But I also think the matchup's decent for a Carolina team that if you're going to give them 4 points as an underdog, I think I'll take that in the game. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, breaking it away from the on the court talk and going to more like simulations, more behind the scenes, more betting angles. According to all of DRF Sports's like power lines and sims, UNC should cover this game. In our game simulations, UNC loses by 3. However, according to our power line, which is all of our data, ratings, everything like that, puts this game at pick'em. And so a lot of value on UNC +4. It's also worth mentioning that over the last 3 seasons, UNC is 9-2 against the spread against the Blue Devils.
That is an interesting little nugget there because they've been, or I guess I wonder what the spreads were because they've sucked the last couple of years. I wonder if they're getting some meaty points. But yeah, you're right. It's a rivalry game. Like I think the underdog in this spot is a good one. Ken Palm's got it as a 4-point spread favoring Duke. It's just one that I think like some of those metrics, they do a good job by factoring in everything throughout the course of the season. But at the same time, like that blowout loss to Tennessee, a loss to Pitt, like that stuff is going to hurt you. They lost by almost 30 points to Kentucky. That hurts Carolina's metrics, where I feel like if they played those teams today, it's just a different team. And it even goes like that ACC narrative, right? Where it's like, well, the ACC is good. It's like, well, maybe the ACC isn't good. The teams just got better. I think Carolina's gotten better to a point where if they're a 4-point dog against Duke, I'll take my chances.
I agree. And I also think if this UNC team played all season, they're probably a 1 or a 2 seed right there with Duke. Like this isn't the same UNC team from even 2021 in December. Like even since January, like it's not the same team. February came, a flip was switched, a switch was flipped, and I don't know if it's whether Hubert Davis finally figured out what the like main rotation was. What was it like? I'm going to use these 6 guys, these 5 guys, like primarily, and then from there we'll just figure it out. But Manic has been just playing absolutely out of his mind. Baycott, rebounding machine. There's not much more you can say, but that's the UNC side of things. I think I'm there with you. Maybe as we talk Duke, I may switch my side, but I mean, I would even sprinkle UNC money line a little bit at +155, +163, wherever you find it. I'd also, there's some player props. We'll talk Duke first, and then we can maybe get into a little bit of player prop talks because I think I like Brady Manic over points and Caleb Love over points. But Duke, they have Banchero, Mark Williams, AJ Griffin, Wendell Moore Jr. They're stacked from top to bottom. That team's stacked. I think 3 lottery picks they have on this year's roster. Am I hyperinflating someone?
I think they'll probably have that in some capacity, right? I know Banchero, you look at like Keels, Moore, Roach, Griffin, Williams, like that's a lot of NBA guys, I would think.
Yeah, so a lot of NBA guys. It seems like they play up and down, though, and I know that's like really good insight. They play up and down sometimes, I think, but it just feels like they're never consistently like great. I would say the Arkansas game was the first time I've watched them play a game, and I was blown away by their ability. Texas Tech, they nearly lost. Michigan State, they nearly lost. Cal State Fullerton, yeah, they won, but they didn't cover. It just felt like that game against Arkansas, they were 4-point favorites, and they went out and they won by 9.
And it was like more.
It was
than
never
not.
close. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I totally agree with that. It's an interesting point. They had some really like the thing that's interesting is you look at like Carolina's losses. Carolina got smoked a lot, which is part of why the metrics like don't love them as much. Like they were getting blown out, some of their losses by like 30, where they were out of the game and they just got killed. That didn't really happen to Duke. Like they had that game, their first loss, remember that against Ohio State, where they were like up in the last
Yeah.
couple minutes and they end up losing because I think Ohio State went on an 8 or a 9-0 run to end the game. That Miami loss at home, they lose by 2. Florida State game goes to overtime. They lose at Virginia. They lost by 1 because Beekman hit the buzzer beating 3. And then you had the Carolina and Virginia Tech losses more recently that were by double digits. But they've had a lot of performances where it was like, why did you not beat Virginia at home by like 15? Like, like why did you not show up on that stage? And a lot of it deals, at least from what I'm seeing, and this is a little bit anecdotal, but when they come off like a really huge emotional high is when they tend to have some of their letdowns, or if the game is like a huge emotional high. So they beat Gonzaga on a neutral floor, and then 4 days later they lose to Ohio State. They had the win over North Carolina on the road. They won by 20. 2 days later is when Beekman hit the buzzer beater in Cameron to beat them. And then you look, they had that North Carolina game, which was Coach K's last home game with all that pressure. They lose by 13. ACC tournament title with a lot of pressure on the line. They lose by 15. Now they've performed really, really well in the NCAA tournament under pressure, but it's interesting to see some of those spots where it's like when they have this huge achievement, then all the eyes turn toward them. There have been a few times this year where they've definitely fallen short and not looked like the best version of Duke, which I'm interested to see because, like, obviously this game has a ton of hype and the Coach K story is very much in play because the national championship in his final season is now realistic.
And not only that, it also feels like Banchero especially, and I've been hard on him all season, but he's been playing some of the best basketball of the year. He's balling out. I think he's over 20 points in all NCAA tournament games. And if not, he's having an impact, whether it's rebounds or like he's making a huge impact. He is the key player that makes this Blue Devils team go. And he's had a fantastic NCAA tournament. But what I'm getting at is, like you said, when this team has those doldrums, those low points coming off of the highs, when all the eyes go to him, Banchero doesn't seem to thrive under the pressure. Even in the Gonzaga game was probably the one time he thrived under pressure, when it was Chet versus Paolo, and everyone was tuning into that game for that. Since then, every big moment, it seems like he shrinks. He hasn't in the NCAA tournament, but there's also been 15 other games happening at the same time he plays. Like, this is a standalone island game, and it's the Final Four, and there's a lot of pressure. And so far this season, he hasn't proven, to me at least, that he can step up and drop a 30-piece and pull in 8 rebounds in the biggest game of the season. And he might have to do that to beat UNC.
As someone who's going to take Carolina, he does scare me, though, because he's shown some flashes, right? He had the Gonzaga game you mentioned where he was really good. And then he cramped. That was when he was cramping every
big game. He also, in fairness, he also did cramp in the Ohio State game. And also, in fairness, in Coach K's final game, he balled out in the first half.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
And then whether it's cramps in the second or like UNC figured out how to game plan him out. But he balled out for 20 minutes, and it looked like Duke was on their way to a 20-point win.
Yeah, that's what kind of scares me. He had some flashes where he's been really good. He was pretty efficient against Virginia Tech, even though they lost by 15 in the ACC title. He had 20 points and 11 shots. So he showed some signs there and did some nice things. But it's interesting because they've got a bunch of guys who are rolling, including him, like you mentioned. I think Jeremy Roach is playing really well. It feels like every time they need a bucket, he's able to get it, whether it's driving or hitting a 3. They scare me because they're probably the most talented team left.
Yeah.
There's something about Carolina's rotation and the way it's gelling that I really like.
I agree wholeheartedly. I'd argue that Duke was the most talented team all season.
Probably, yeah.
And there's a reason they're still in it because they're the most talented. So we both are leaning. You're betting UNC +4. I'm leaning UNC money line just to win outright because let's have some fun with it. It's March Madness. We're both on the Tar Heel side. However, Banchero and company do scare us, and the narrative definitely scares me. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah.
Let's hit a couple player props here for this game. Paulo Banchero, over or under 17.5 points?
I kind of like the over in the game, so I might lean over there, especially the way he's been playing. I think he had, just looking at here, I think he only had 16 against Arkansas, but some of that is he didn't shoot that much.
Yeah.
But he's pretty much, I think every other game he has had that 20 point or really close to the 20 points. So I think it's a fair line, but if the game goes over, I feel like he's capable of getting that for sure.
I also think he might need to score 18 or more points for Duke to be in it late and to win the game. So I like Banchero over 17.5 points. We have Caleb Love set at 15.5. Now, if he hits his threes, he can reach that number within 5 minutes of the first half. But if he's clanging some off the rim like he was against St. Peter's, going 2 for 10, I might be like pulling teeth. Like you just had your wisdom teeth out, right? Something like that. Could be like that.
I've had I had a root canal recently.
Root canal. That's what it was.
It would that's an interesting prop. I would probably take the over just because, like you're saying, like the dude's going to shoot the ball a ton. He's taken double-digit 3-pointers in 3 of the 4 NCAA tournament games. So there's enough like opportunity.
And then Brady Manick at 16.5 points. He's scored over 20 in each game in the NCAA tournament, averaging 21.5. I think the over 16.5 is the easiest play I'd make in terms of player props.
That'd be a fun one. I kind of am inclined to take like everyone over. I kind of feel like it's going to be a high-scoring affair, even though there might be some nerves early and maybe they're adjusting to playing in the Superdome or whatever. But it just feels like it's going to be a game where I think Duke is kind of willing to play like whatever tempo, like they're in the middle of the country in tempo. Carolina kind of tends to run more, even though this year they've slowed it down maybe more than they have in the past. Just feels like one that's got some track meet potential. Maybe I'm taking that from the first 2 meetings, but
yeah. You know who I am excited to watch outside of Baycott and Manick?
That's gonna be good.
I'm excited to watch Mark Williams bang it down low.
He's very underrated for them.
Yeah, he's extremely underrated. He's one of the best bigs in college basketball, and he seems like you barely hear anything about him. And I'm not knocking anything about what UNC has in terms of big men, but Hubert Davis doesn't believe in positions. He's one of those coaches, very NBA style, where he likes to have his fives be stretch and have Baycott be able to step out a little bit, although Baycott shoots like 12% from 3, so not necessarily him. But Manick doesn't always patrol the paint. So Mark Williams might have a good game. Like, they might just feed it to him. And then also if he can bang around down low and get Baycott in trouble, like, that's the X factor. If we're talking X factors in a college basketball game, for this one it is Mark Williams.
Yeah, it's huge. That matchup with Baycott and Williams is massive because if he does get in foul trouble, Baycott, that is, changes the game. I think he did a little bit maybe in the first half against Duke in that second meeting. I could be wrong, but I think McCoy came in for a little bit, was just not really a match for him. So it depends a little bit on the matchup. But they don't have a guy who can come in and back up Baycott, really. I think Garcia, they had to do that maybe a little bit. He was a little bigger, but I don't think he's playing anymore. I believe he got hurt. So they don't necessarily have the the guys that they need to be able to do it. Yeah. So
Anthony Harris is also out, and Puff Johnson.
Because have they used Theo John? I guess there's Theo John. Like, he's on the other side, right? Yeah. But like they don't use him that much, so it's probably just mostly Williams and Baycott, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Going against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one because you look at it even on the other side. I think if Williams gets in foul trouble or something, that could swing it a little bit the other way too. So pretty excited to watch that matchup. That's maybe the game within the game is the low post battle.
I'm so excited for that game. Like, no offense to Villanova, Kansas, which we'll talk about now, but Duke UNC, I am a biased watcher. I'm not the biggest fan of Duke. Coach K's all right. So I want to see UNC win, but am I going to sit down and watch ESPN College Game Days coverage of Coach K coaching in his final game and like all the features that CBS and Turner are going to put out and love every minute of it? 100%. And I'm going to watch everything. Like, I'm going to take all the pageantry in. Flip into the other side.
It's an objectively incredible weekend of college basketball.
Yes, because on the other side, starting things off, it's a fantastic game. The Justin Moore injury really hurts Villanova. Like, you can't understate how important that guard is paired with Colin Gillespie. However, The Wildcats, they're 4.5-point dogs to the Jayhawks. Villanova, the 2 seed. Kansas, the 1 seed. According to our game simulators, and our game simulators don't take in key injuries as much as they necessarily should, they do like Villanova to win this game outright. And the power line makes this game -4. So it's right about what the market has put down. Line opened at 4.5. It's still 4.5. Not a lot of movement there. Well, I guess it opened at 4.
It was right around the 4.5 range. Yeah.
So it's not a lot of movement. Early lines, where the public's betting, according to DRF, Kansas is getting 83% of the bets at -4.5. This is very early. Sample's not huge. Not sure what national in terms of what every single sportsbook is taking in. That doesn't surprise me, though. The number's a little high, but that doesn't surprise me with the Justin Moore injury.
Yeah, that's a tough one for them. Second leading scorer. He can guard like 1 through 4, 1 through 5. He's just a very good player. He rebounds well. He doesn't turn the ball over. He gives him a second ball handler with Gillespie. Like, it's a pretty valuable guy for him. They don't like to take him off the court. So it hurts a lot. I think I'm leaning toward the Villanova spread, just as like a contrarian play, even though on the other side I'm on the very public underdog. This one I kind of like Villanova 4.5. I just feel like they can hang in there and slow the game down. And even without Justin Moore, the tempo they go at is so slow that they're so good on both ends. I think they have enough, veterans there that some guys can step up maybe and handle some of the scoring load and that stuff. It hurts a lot for sure.
Yeah.
I think they can do it. I think the Kansas Miami game is fresh in people's mind, which makes me think a lot of people are going to love Kansas in this one. So I'll kind of fade it and hope that Villanova's like program and coaching and slow tempo can at least keep them competitive in the game.
I agree with that take. I think Villanova is my side too, plus 4.5. That seems like a lot of points, especially for the best free throw team in the history of college basketball. I think I heard that they're the best free throw shooting team in all of college basketball ever.
I think that checks out. They're shooting like 83% or something stupid from the line.
Just insane. So, like, even if this game is, like, relatively close down the stretch and, like, fouls start becoming an issue, which seems like they have throughout the entire NCAA tournament, Villanova's going to hit their shots. And they don't take a shot until there's 10 seconds left. Like, their offense doesn't even start until there's 10 seconds left on the shot clock. So if this is a close, grinded-out game, the Wildcats have the edge over the Jayhawks. But the Justin Moore injury hurts. So, like, did you watch it?
I've seen the video of the replay, too, of the injury, yeah.
Wasn't good. Wasn't.
No, that's tough. That's one of those, you get all the Twitter doctors immediately diagnosing exactly what happened. So it was it wasn't ideal. One thing I'll say that I think is interesting and maybe worth noting here is you've got Kansas, when you look back at some of the games that they have played in the tournament, Creighton and Providence are both kind of slower tempo teams from the Big East. Also kind of hilarious that Kansas is just like patrolling the Big East during this tournament. But anyway, they've got Providence is one of the slower teams in the country, and they were able to keep that game within 5. They didn't even play well or really shoot well. They're 4 of 23 from beyond the 3-point line. They were 11 for 16, which is only 68% from the free throw line. They shot 42%, which isn't very good either, from 2. Some of that is Kansas plays good defense, but it also gives me a little hope that, hey, like they can keep this lower scoring Villanova and shoot the ball, I would hope, better than Providence did in that matchup. I just feel like they can hang around and surprise people. And Justin Moore is very important, but I feel like the general public is like, oh, Kansas is playing for the title. And I feel like they're quick to discount this team without Justin Moore.
It's also, I feel like this is also a really important part of the whole story. When they faced Creighton was without Kalkbrenner and Nebhard.
Yeah.
2 of their biggest contributors offensively, and Creighton still kept it close. So I don't know if Kansas necessarily has the step on your neck and break it capability. We saw that against Miami in the second half, but that first half was just so underwhelming if you were a Kansas bettor that they then outscored them like 45-15 in the second half. So it didn't matter. But Villanova's a darn good team that's extremely well coached, that even with the Justin Moore injury, you still have Gillespie, Samuels, Dixon, and a litany of others who can step in and not fill that void, but at least partially plug it for the time being. Here's a part of the game within the game that you mentioned in the Duke UNC game that I want to get your opinion on. Villanova is one of the slowest teams in the nation. They're going to grind you out. They're not going to start their offense until late in the shot clock. But Kansas is the 61st fastest team in the nation. Are you leaning the over or the under here?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think on that one, I would lean maybe even doing a contrarian over. What is it? It's like 133.
132 and a half is what I'm seeing. So yeah, 133.
Yeah. I would maybe lean over. Just that's a contrarian play. I think I'll stay away from it because with my logic, it's going to be like a lower scoring game where you could be. But I think it's a pretty good number. Like you could see it being, low 70s, mid 60s. So
yeah.
So I think it'll be a decent number. I would maybe think about the over, just like a fun. If you want to go contrarian with this game, go Villanova in the over. I also think like people probably overreact a little too much to each game that they've just seen. So you watch Villanova and Houston have an absolute rock fight, 50-44, and you're like, this team will never play an over ever. And it was like, well, Houston, I mean, they went 1 of 20 from 3, and that's not a strength of their team at all. They try to get offensive rebounds. They got a lot of offensive rebounds, but they still couldn't make any shots. So I don't know. I just feel like this one it's not going to be 50-44. I'll say that because Kansas is trying the other way to go faster. They have some shooters, things like that. So I think it could go over. Ken Palm's got 70-69, which is 139. So you could have a cover and an over.
Perfect.
That'd be nice.
I do just want to sprinkle this little fun thing towards you. You ready for it?
Yeah.
6 of Villanova's last 7 games have gone under.
Wow. I love that for them.
Does that change anything for you?
No.
Okay. So, since 1997, Villanova is 7-1 against the spread against Kansas, 5-3 straight up. Over the last 3 seasons, Villanova is 3-0 against the spread versus Kansas. So, I don't think do you want to hit anything on the Kansas side of this? Anything about Remy Martin, David McCormick, any Kansas stars that you're really focusing in on for this matchup, or is the talk all Villanova?
Martin's been really good. They're just like, they just feel like a really complete team where it's not necessarily one star, because some of that is like Abaji kind of lets the game come to him. So he's less of a like in your face JD Note. I'm going to shoot the ball 43 times today. But
so much hatred for JD Note.
He's a fun player to watch. He just shoots the ball a lot. But like, I don't know. I just feel like they're a really complete team. I mean, I could see them certainly winning the game. I like the Villanova side as a contrarian play, but you look at Kansas all year, it's just been really, really good. Maybe flown under the radar as one of the 1 seeds where people were talking about other regions more, but they're very good, really talented. I will say Texas Southern, Creighton, Providence, Miami. That's kind of a Mickey Mouse path. And then you get Villanova without Justin Moore. I'm just saying. They're like the national title favorite, and they've been handed a cakewalk to I mean, your best team to play is Providence, and you win by 5 when they're shooting like 10% from 3, and they're the luckiest team in college basketball. I don't know. I'm not very impressed with that. I'll say that.
And now you get an injured Villanova team.
Exactly. And Creighton, you mentioned Creighton, all the injuries. So it's like the only team they played that were, full strength. You get Providence and Texas Southern.
Miami.
I guess Miami is at full strength. They just stink.
Could you imagine if they got an Iowa State?
That would have been something. Miami, that felt like a perfect time for Miami's run to end. And kudos to them for playing some really good defense on them. Only 2 assists for Charlie Moore. I thought they did a great job on him. So, yeah, they did a nice job in that game. That second half was crazy impressive.
Yeah, that second half. I remember going into halftime, and I was like, wow, we're really about to have no 1 seeds in the Final Four. This is insane, because Miami looked the part, and then they didn't. And then Kansas went on a 45-15 or 45-17 run in the second half, and then you blink and they win by 26.
Kind of insane, but heck of a matchup. I'm looking forward to both. A little bummed about Justin Moore, because I feel like full strength that game is even more enjoyable, maybe a little more fun, but still should be good. The back-to-back games, whoever you get in the title, I think will be interesting. I don't want Duke to win, but I think Duke Kansas might be the best title game in terms of a narrative. But even North Carolina Kansas will be really exciting. Villanova Duke, Villanova, all of them are good, right? Because you got the blue bloods.
Yeah, the blue bloods and the new blood.
Exactly.
Okay, so your national championship is based off of betting. Well, betting, you're going UNC +4, Villanova +4.5. So what's your national championship?
Let's take the dogs. I'll take the dogs. I'll take North Carolina, Villanova. I'll end up betting the money line too for the fun of it.
So a rematch of 2018?
Rematch of that was a really good one. The Chris Jenkins buzzer beater right after the Marcus Page flailing three.
Was that 2018 or was that 2016?
I thought it was 18.
Okay, but yeah, that was the
no,
game.
No, you're right. It's either it was 16. It was 16. 18 Carolina wasn't any good.
Who did Villanova play in 18?
This is embarrassing that we don't know all of this. Oh, Michigan, and the game sucked.
See, that's why we forgot it. It was a terrible game.
Yeah, they kind of blitzed them in the final 10 minutes of the first half. I think they were up 10 and then never. Yeah, it wasn't all that good. Duncan Robinson, Jordan Poole got some minutes. That team was not that good.
Yeah, so a potential rematch of 2016. Yeah, that Chris Jenkins buzzer beater was absolutely insane. Something I want to touch on.
6 years ago?
6 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I said. 6. That feels like it was 2. Oh, man, I feel old now.
I was watching it in my freshman dorm.
All right, well, then I guess you knew that was the case.
Yeah, I should have just put it together with that. I was watching it with someone who was from the Villanova area. They had a lot of family. They knew Diacono's brother, which he's on the team now and might get actual play time.
He might. Archie Diacono might actually play.
How insane would it be if he's a key in these somehow Villanova wins it. He's averaging 20 and 4.
That would be something because he's gotten mop up duty recently, but he every now and then he's gotten some minutes this year and actually been decent.
But what I was saying, no buzzer beaters in March Madness so far, and I'm kind of disappointed in that. So do we get 3 to finish it out here? Maybe.
That'd be nice. Yeah, there have definitely been some fun finishes, but there's also been some, maybe a disappointing lack of drama / buzzer beaters in some of these games.
There's been good fit. The Baylor UNC finish was cool, but then it went to overtime, and overtime was terrible.
Yeah. It's also there's an 8 seed in the Final Four, and the 8 seed is Carolina. It's you know what I mean? Normally you'd expect it. It's the Loyola Chicago or some, if it was Memphis or something, that'd be crazy. But instead you've got a program that you're accustomed to seeing win national titles as the 8 seed.
I think you tweeted this, and everyone tweets it every year. We all talk about Cinderellas. We had St. Peter. We had 2 double-digit seeds in the Elite 8. St. Peter's is the top. And then the Final Four is UNC, Duke, Villanova, and Kansas.
Yeah, it was the year of chaos, right? You had that one Saturday where the top 6 teams in the AP poll all lost. And then the Final Four is just powerhouses. All right.
That's how okay. And every year people talk about how crazy the NCAA tournament is. And how topsy-turvy, but 9.5 times out of 10, the Final Four is the 4 best teams in the country, or at least the 4 most well-coached and most talented.
Or you're not even surprised by the national champ. You know what I mean? When's the last time you were truly stunned at a team winning the national championship? I don't know if it's ever.
You sound so disappointed.
Well, it'd be fun if one of those runs kept if St. Peter somehow made it and was playing Duke, that'd be hilariously weird and wacky college basketball. But as far as the tournament progresses, you eventually get those Baylor Gonzaga was last year's tournament. It was clearly the 2 best teams. Doesn't always happen perfectly, but
So your national championship is going to be Villanova, Kansas, Villanova, UNC. You're going the Dogs.
Yeah, I'll go with the Dogs. That one would be a tough one to get a feel for. I think I'll say Villanova wins the national championship because I think whatever happens, and I've already told myself this, and I think I have to follow through with this logic because I've been horrendous at betting the tournament. If you haven't paid attention, folks. Just don't.
That's right. Normally we start each episode with like, "Wow, what a great best bets week we had!" Like we hit like 57% of our bets throughout the regular season.
We had a great year.
Then you just had an absolute, and then I was iffy. My tournament challenges were all bad, but some of my best bets I had winning weeks.
Your bets have been great,
but yours have just been
horrible, just horrible. There have been a couple where I was like, "Oh, that's a great play," and they've worked out for me. But there have been a lot where I was like, "You know what? I feel this one," and they aren't right at all, or even close. But I don't even know where I was going with that. But
Villanova, your reasoning for why they have to win the national championship.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. The Villanova-Kansas winner, I'm blindly taking to win the national championship because of the emotional high that the Duke North Carolina winner will have gone through in that.
That actually makes so much sense.
Yeah, it just strikes me like, you remember a few years ago when Wisconsin played Kentucky? I'm not even going to say the year because it's probably wrong. But Wisconsin plays Kentucky. They beat that undefeated Kentucky team.
2013?
I think it might have been 14 or 15. I don't even know. Who knows?
Okay, but yeah, okay. Wisconsin beats the undefeated Kentucky team in the Final Four. Then they don't get
15. It was 15.
And then they get their butts handed to them in the national championship, right?
It was like a really competitive game. And then like Grayson Allen comes off the bench and scores 16 and Duke beats Wisconsin by 5. Wisconsin seemed like this juggernaut. So I think whoever wins Duke UNC is going to be the talk of the town. And then I think I'm betting the other side kind of blindly. I mean, I don't even really care. I think I would, if in that situation, I might prefer that Kansas wins to blindly bet Kansas.
Yeah.
But if let's say Villanova's like, they get through and they're like a short dog against Coach K, I'll take that. Take that every day.
So I like UNC Kansas to make it to the. I think Villanova can easily cover. Not easily. This is college basketball. Nothing is easy. But I think Villanova can cover. But I just don't see a way they win without Justin Moore. And then also, if I'm going your way, which I'm not doing your way of blindly betting the national championship of whoever is going against Duke UNC, because I don't know if Villanova then can win without Justin Moore against a even more talented team.
I don't care. I love my logic of them being on an emotional high. So I'm betting against them.
Here's quick player props for you. I just want to hit because Moore out, Colin Gillespie is set at 15.5 points. He only had 6 in against Houston, but granted, there was only 94 points scored in total. So, like in theory, he had a good percentage of points. Do you like the over or under for Colin Gillespie at 15.5?
Would look at the over, but I wonder if he's going to like lean more toward like a really good passing game and has a bunch of assists and scores like 12 to get his teammates involved. So I don't know. I feel like everyone's going to see Villanova player props and be like, everyone's going over because Justin Moore's out. Maybe give me the under here.
Okay, one more. Remy Martin, who's been balling out in the NCAA tournament. His point total is only set at 11.5. That seems low.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. He didn't score a lot against Miami. Pretty good number. Oh, man. He's been shooting it really well, but he just –
How many did he score against Miami?
9.
But then he had like 25 the game before that.
23 against Providence, 20 against Creighton, 15 against Texas Southern. So he's certainly averaging over that. Scored double figures in 5 games before the 9, which is interesting because he didn't really – goes up and down. I would probably take the over.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I was hoping that's where you would go with it. Like the primary ball handler who's one of the best scorers on the team outside of Ochai Agbaji. Give me Remy Martin over 11.5.
I also think that's one where if you do like Kansas and think they're going to win, he's a pretty solid free throw shooter. So you can maybe take that prop and he goes from 8 to 12 in the final minute. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Same with Gillespie. Really, if it's a close game and any of them are close to their point totals, both teams are Villanova especially is a really good free throw shooting team. All right. Do you want to hit some best bets here and then get up on out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
What can these best bets even be? Do you want me to go first or you want to go first?
You go first.
This is our last best bets of the season. No. We have a national championship live.
Yeah, come on.
So sorry about that. Okay, you want me to go first? Best bets. Villanova, no. Kansas -200 money line. Let's be basic. I was expecting a boo to come from you, but
Yeah, you whatever. I tried to do like a tongue thing, and it just kind of like got stuck on my lips.
okay. I like Kansas money line minus 200. I like UNC plus 155 money line. I think UNC wins outright. And I also like the over 132.5 for Kansas Villanova. I think Kansas can speed them up a little bit. And
Yeah.
if Kansas can hold a lead late, it'll force Villanova to up the tempo. And I think if Villanova's scoring, Kansas is scoring. And that's like you have to score more points than your opponent. But like one of those things where like you blink and all of a sudden both teams have scored 10 more points because the pressure's on, and it's one of so over 132.5 in Villanova, Kansas. Kansas minus 200 money line, UNC plus 155 money line, and also I'm going to sprinkle in 2 player props. Remy Martin over 11.5 points, and Brady Manick over his point total, which I think was set at 16.5. Yep.
I like it. I will say both the underdog spreads. We'll take Villanova, whatever they are, +4. They're both around +4. Are they +4.5 now, Villanova?
Villanova's plus 4.5. UNC's +4.
Okay, I'll take both those spreads. I will sprinkle money line. And then I got to go women's action. Louisville, these games are on Friday. So it's going to go Friday, women, Saturday, men, Sunday national title women, I believe, and then Monday national title men. Great 4 days of basketball. Louisville +8 against South Carolina. I may or may not be stealing this from her hoop stats and the analytics, basically Ken Palm. I think it has them as like a 6-point dog on a neutral floor. So I'll take the 8 there. I like the way they're playing. I feel like everyone's going to love South Carolina in that spot. Give me Louisville. And then the best bet ever that I have, the one that if you actually want to tail me on one that I would tail, it's Stanford money line over UConn. UConn is like skating by at home essentially through these regionals. Stanford's the defending national champ. They've won 24 consecutive games. Their last loss came on the road to number 1 overall seed South Carolina by 4 points. They had a halftime lead, weren't able to hold on. I love the way they're playing. This strikes me as one where people are going to go, oh, Paige Becker's in UConn, and forget that Stanford won the national title last year. Has won 24 consecutive games. I think they have 3 players averaging at least 12 points, Jack. They are a very, very solid team. Paige Becker's is awesome. The release, the jump shot, it's perfect. It's unbelievable. I don't care. Stanford's going to win the game because they're not playing this in Connecticut. Now they are playing it in Minneapolis. She's probably going to have a lot of hometown fans there. Don't care. We're taking Stanford money line as my favorite play of my 4 plays this weekend.
And also in Stanford's advantage, they're going to have Mr. Unlimited in attendance watching.
Is she still on the team?
Yeah.
How long has she been there?
18 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think she got a medical red shirt and then a COVID red shirt. So I think this is her 6th year.
Makes me want to bet against them, but
yeah, same. I hate the Denver Broncos quarterback. I won't even say his name.
But I love that play. Looking forward to that one, and also looking forward to, the next few days of hoops.
Yeah, so am I. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not trying to diminish women's March Madness at all, but I'm so looking forward to Saturday's slate of games. You can find all of the information you need, all the betting insights, betting articles, betting analysis at drf.com/sports. If you're in Iowa listening to this, one of our 15 listeners, and you happen to be in Iowa, you can head on over to ia.drf.com, or you can download the DRF Sportsbook app on the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store, and you can start betting. All lines we use from today's podcast are from ia.drf.com, including the player props. So if you like something we talked about, head on over there. If you're in Iowa, must be physically present in Iowa to wager. Do you have anything coming up written works-wise over for Sports Handle, Bennett?
Yeah, I got some stuff at sportshandle.com. You can find some of my work too. My Twitter account is at Bennett Conlin, BENNETTCONLIN. Still waiting on Bet Saracen to launch down in Arkansas. So keeping tabs on that bad boy. Got some Kansas news that's going on. They had a very abrupt hearing ending today on Tuesday as they try to legalize sports betting. Minnesota's got some stuff going on Thursday. So just keeping some tabs, and also have a betting preview that it has some men's and women's basketball info, additional stuff on Thursday, I believe, at usbets.com.
Love it. And if you had Arkansas will be eliminated from the NCAA tournament before Arkansas gets their mobile sports betting up ticket, you can take it to the window because that bad boy's cashed.
Yeah, for Bet Saracen, but Betly does have you can use it on a browser, or if you go to their website and download like the Android, it's a mess. Arkansas is an absolute mess. I had some people tweeting at me today asking like, when do you think FanDuel will come? And I was like, no, they made like revenue sharing rules that make it so FanDuel is never going to want to come. And they're like, ah! So I hear you, Arkansas. It's tough.
Not only did their Razorbacks lose, they're not getting FanDuel or DraftKings or any of that.
It's tough because if the local operators say, hey, we're going to be up, we promise, by March Madness, your teammate makes an Elite 8 run, and at no point were you able to use that casino's platform, that would be annoying.
You know what all the Arkansas people should do?
Drive to Iowa,
place their bets with DRF Sportsbook. We'll take your money. We'll even give you some free bets, risk-free bet up to $500. Plenty of odds.
Trip.
What?
Road trip.
Let's go. We did boost back during the playoffs. This is a quick story, and then we'll get up on out of here. During the playoffs, we boosted like Kansas City Chiefs to win. They're like minus 400. We boosted them all the way to plus 100. And I was joking with my colleagues. I was like, I'm about to get on a plane and go to Iowa and like pay for my plane ticket back with bet. Good thing I didn't, because the Chiefs ended up losing to the Bengals. So like it ended up being a great boost for us. But like it was like essentially a lock for the Chiefs to beat the Bengals, right? And you could have just gotten free money, but it ended up working out in the sportsbook's favor, as it normally does. The NFL's rigged. I'm joking.
The NFL's rigged. March Madness is Coach K stuff feels a little rigged.
Did you see someone talking about? I know I just said this was the last story, but I have to ask you this question. This isn't a story. Do you see someone saying, "You think the refs are calling this in to help Coach K's farewell tour"? Do you think that's baked into the line anywhere? No, it's not.
It was also like they hit all of their shots against Michigan State and Texas at the end of the game and then demolished Arkansas. Like at no point was it able to become like a ref show because they were just playing really, really good basketball.
Yeah. Well, for Bennett Conlon, my name's Jack Fitzpatrick. We're looking forward to a great Final Four. Be sure to turn on tweet notifications for @DRF_sports because we're going live. Do you want to do live? Well, let's plan it right now. Do you want to do live Sunday, or I might be on the road Sunday, so Sunday night we could do, or
we
Monday.
Could do Sunday night or Monday morning or something.
Or
Monday before the game. What do you think?
Let's do Monday at some point.
We'll do Monday of the national championship.
Perfect. So set your tweet notifications on for DRF_sports, and we'll be coming at you live on Monday, breaking down the national championship, recapping the Final Four, and rolling in all the money we made after betting UNC Moneyline. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the DRF College Sports Podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show. For more sports betting advice, go to drf.com/sports, and you can follow DRF Sports on Twitter @DRF_sports.